Welcome to the Creative Coach Podcast. I'm Wade Kingsley. And over the last few weeks, I've been introducing you to people who are involved in our Creative Women Mentoring Program. Now, the Creative Women Mentoring Program started last year simply off the back of one simple insight. It's that women aren't recognised enough in creative industries. And creative industries here, we're counting media, marketing, advertising, anything that sort of sits around that area. And there are plenty of amazing women doing great things in the creative industries. So the mentoring program is a way to connect mentors with future leaders in our industry. One of those mentors is Lizzie Young, who is the CEO of Commercial Radio and Audio here in Australia. And Lizzie is joining us today. Hi, Lizzie.
Hi, Wade. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. And thank you for being part of the mentoring program. I really appreciate you giving time and helping out future leaders of women in our industry.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, it's been an awesome opportunity and a great group of women that I've met through that already.
We're getting great feedback from the people that are having mentoring sessions with you. I don't know what goes on in those sessions, by the way. It's fully between you and the person having the mentoring, but I have heard some positive feedback and I know people are booking sessions with you. So thank you for that. Let's talk about your career. How did you get into media?
So I started in media 26 years ago, and I did a journalism degree at the University of Queensland, and I went to the ABC's digital newsroom as an intern at the end of my degree, and I also went and worked for free at a local Brisbane radio station called B105 on their community
Aha.
switchboard when people used to ring up to find out what they could do on the weekend. And from there, I became what's known as a Black Thunder driver.
Aha.
And my call sign was Dizzy Lizzie. Then I was Jamie Dunn in the B105 morning cruise stunt girl for a period of time. And then I eventually found my way into a promotions coordinator role. And basically, from there, I've been doing various promotions, marketing, content, commercial, leadership, operational roles ever since. And sort of half my career in radio, both in Australia and London, and the other half of my career at Nine, which everyone will know is Australia's largest locally owned media company. But I was more focused, I guess, on the television side of the business, and then we had radio and digital as well. And I did a couple of years at a global tech startup, and sort of through all of that, I've run different things. I've run some TV shows, which was super cool, the commercialization of them, but also the creation of some. I've run various different marketing from both B2B and B2C. And I've also done a lot of work with clients around sort of the commercialization of content for brands.
Fantastic. And across that time, radio seems to be something that kind of draws you back in. What's the line from, is it that Mafia movie where they say they try to get out and they drag you back in? Does radio call you back? Audio?
Yeah, that definitely happened this time, to be honest. So I had left radio sort of 14 years ago um, and gone and done every other platform, and then got the call about this role, and I was really interested. It felt like a return to the beginning. It felt like coming home. And it also, what I love about this role, it is radio, but it's the whole industry in Australia. So I get to work with every single radio company, and then even sort of the broader industry as well. And so that's been, a great honor and a great thrill to think about how to solve industry-wide challenges rather than just company-wide.
Yeah. And the thread line I can tell too, because I've done a similar promotions and marketing role in radio, is the first thing it absolutely is stakeholder management.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
Yep.
Whenever you sit in between content and creativity and commercial, that means you've got a lot of generally very big personalities who generally have different motivations. Everybody always wants good work and good
Yep.
outcomes, but the
Hmm.
path to getting there can be different for those different individuals. And so my role is very much about bringing those sorts of people together and getting the right outcome and stakeholder management.
Fantastic. All right. So let's talk about women and mentoring women in the industry. Why is mentoring so important to you?
So, media has changed a lot in the last quarter of a century in some ways, and in others, it hasn't changed at all. And I think it's super important to make sure women are supported. And that's not about giving women necessarily more opportunities than men because we should. It's because we can,
Yep.
and it's also the data supports the fact that we need to. That's the thing. Like we can do this and we should do this, and the data supports that there is a need to. There is still a massive disparity between the genders in this particular industry. And I just feel really strongly that if I've got something, or if I can pass on some knowledge, or probably more so for me, if I can help someone work through a problem and troubleshoot, that's probably one of the things that I've worked in very complex environments. So I get a lot of joy from solving problems. And if I can share some of that with mentees and help them navigate, either a challenge that they've got at work or how they're thinking about their career, then I find that really rewarding.
Yeah, I think that experience piece comes into play, doesn't it? Because sometimes people think mentoring is, I'll tell someone my problem and they'll tell me the answer. But as you know, through your career, it's about helping people understand how they can solve the problem themselves. And I think one of the things I'm really enjoying about our current cohort of women who are coming from different parts of the industry with different experience is the commonality is they're going through things that you've been through. That they've felt invisible in a room when everyone's listening to the man present confidently or supposedly and then feeling like they can't actually get a look in or overlook for promotion or feel worried about how to ask for a pay rise. There are things that I think that men obviously have a sense of entitlement to, and the system supports that. And I think with women who have been through similar experiences, even just sharing the fact that you know what it's like is actually quite a critical part of it.
Yeah, I think that's right. There is an element of experience. I mean, you can never solve someone else's problem for them. Like that, you just can't. That's unrealistic. But you can think about when you've been in a similar situation and the various different things that played out as a result of that, or how you can think about it. And you can ask lots of questions to help people distill what actually is the issue and how do I get to the solution that I'm comfortable with. So I think that's right. And I think it's even to your point, sometimes um, we're just conditioned to do things a certain way. It's the classic example of if someone applies for a job and there's a list of all the things that they need for that job, if a woman looks at that list and goes, "Oh, I can only do half of it, I'm not going to apply," and a man looks at that list and goes, I can do half of it, I'm going to apply.
Yeah.
So it's even just anecdotally, like you see so much, right? And
Yeah.
I have been lucky, um, and I'll mentor myself now and say you should never say lucky, actually.
True.
Um, and I would say that to a mentee if they said that to me. So it's
Yeah.
ironic, right? These little things just
Yeah.
creep in and you're conditioned to it. But I've been able to work in both, Australia and the UK, and I've had exposure to Asia and the US as well, but also in really different environments. So I've done startup, I've done corporate, I've done the biggest merger that ever happened in the UK radio industry when GWR merged with Capital. I was a part of. I did the Nine Fairfax merger here. So I've seen lots of different things and different ways of operating inside different types of organizations. And I think if all those things, come together and you can share some of that, and that's, it's a really nice thing to do.
It's great. Well, I appreciate you being part of the panel. Now, let me talk to you about your own creativity. Can you be creative as a CEO? Hint, the answer is yes. I just need to know what it is for you.
So, yeah, look, you absolutely can be. I do think, as your role morphs and changes and you become further removed from the creative output, you do it less as a practice.
Mhm.
And as I have said to you previously, Wade, I don't actually think of myself as a creative.
Oh,
Um,
boo. Not
even
true.
though, well, it's interesting, right? I have worked in the creative industries for a very long time. I've worked with lots of creatives. I have been responsible for a lot of creative output. Um, but I wouldn't call myself a creative as such. I think what I am good at doing in the creative space is I'm good at sparking an idea. I'm good at questioning someone who has an idea, and I'm good at, I guess, enabling the journey and bringing creative minds together to get outcomes.
Yeah. And that's a critical part, setting the conditions for creativity, whether that be through casting of appropriate skills and talents, collaborating, providing the psychological safety that's required sometimes to get those ideas out in the world, because there's plenty of organizations that have those great quotes as you walk in to the reception area and, creativity lives here and all that kind of stuff. But when you actually look under the hood and see what they're doing, there's a lot of those conditions that need to be set up, and that's a leader's job.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard, right? Different organizations, different sizes. It is hard when everyone's just busy and trying to get to the outcome. It is hard to foster it and make sure you're not stifling it. But that's to your point, it's the environment and the culture that you create, and that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So where do you get your ideas from? Are you a runner? Do
Oh
you get them
God, no.
walking? Where do you get your ideas?
Um, I do. Yeah, look, I have a very busy mind, so I'm kind of always on the go. So my ideas can come to me randomly anywhere. Um, and I read a lot. I probably should say doom scroll a lot. Like I look at a lot of different inputs, I guess,
Yeah.
like I consume a lot of media. I consume a lot online. I look around the world. I like doing all of that. And something will just spark a little thread. And then generally what I'll do is say to the team, hey, I've got this thought bubble, you know,
Yep.
can someone make that
Yep.
into
Make that
something, or
happen.
is there
Yep.
something there? Or we'll get a group together and, just kind of throw that around.
Yeah.
And some of it you then go, "Oh, no, it was a terrible idea." And some of it, sees the light of day, which is
Yeah.
exciting.
But I think it's important too to acknowledge that that art of gathering, which is what that is, you're noticing, gathering, and deliberately moving to find inputs. I think sometimes the myth is you sit back and wait for that mythical lightning bolt to strike and go, oh, that's a great idea. But you actually have to go and hunt and gather and find things that you can connect and combine, or say, well, that's being done in that industry. Could that work in ours? Or that's been done in that part of
Yeah.
the world. Could that work in Australia? So that's an integral part of the process. And I wouldn't underestimate how much that is a creative act, because plenty of people can
Yeah.
just read an instruction manual and just go, well, someone else has written this. I'll just follow it step by step. But people who read that manual and go, I wonder why step 5 is that instead of step 6. That's a creative act. That's your mind working on it.
The curiosity thing, the
Yeah.
inquisitive thing is definitely there. And I think the other thing, I mean, not that you've asked this, but what strikes me is sometimes the thing that stops people being creative is fear,
Yes.
right? And they don't wanna say something out loud for fear of being shot down or
Yeah.
that's a rubbish idea, whatever. Um And, there is the old principle of no idea is a bad idea. But the other thing that I do and will always encourage others to do is signal. So I'll use that as a strategy. So if I think I've got a little kernel of something, but it's not that strong, I'll generally say, look, guys, I'm not sure that this is the thing.
Hmm.
And this might sound ridiculous, but I'm just going to put it out there and let's just work
Yep.
on and see what we can do with it. And then you sort of you know, pass someone the ball and then they sort of try and work the problem and see if you can find a good outcome. But I think that's a good way of having bravery about creativity if you don't think you actually are that creative.
And I think that, that's also a lesson that comes from a lot of creative environments. I think of Hamish and Andy, they operate very much like that. Is there something in this? I think of the working dog guys, they're very much like, I've just noticed this. And they kind of, it's almost like sort of throwing the ball around. And what happens sometimes is it goes around and nothing happens. You go, okay, well, we tried, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And sometimes it catches fire and you're like, oh, okay, so there is something in this and you can build on it. And that sense of teamwork is very much a leader's responsibility to hire and inspire those great creative minds in and around you. And I know you've got lots that you work with across the audio industry here in Australia.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm glad our mentees are having a great time in the mentoring sessions with you, but also thank you for being such a positive and active voice in Australian media leadership. I will just kind of put a little asterisk here and say it's great to see a female CEO of an organisation in the media industry. Not too many of those, and I'm glad that you are making great strides at commercial radio and audio in bringing the industry together and moving it forward.
That's all very generous and kind, Wayne. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be part of the program. I've loved it. And for this chat, it's been really great.